Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have a quorum, but we're going to confirm that momentarily. Would you mind, Madam Secretary, to take a roll call to confirm that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Stephen Boyd, absent. Timothy Cowan, excused. John Elmore.
Here.
Todd Hobler, excused. Len Lenahan.
Here.
Kate Masiello here. Chair Murphy.
Present.
Susan Swartz, Vice Chair.
Present.
Denise Wilson.
Here.
And Rebecca Krakowiak.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. For the record. Good morning. Today we are out at SUNY Erie, South Campus. We're conducting our business from the South Campus. So it was an opportunity for me to drive around earlier this morning because I like to be prepared when I come from Amherst to get here. So I left the house at 4 to 6 this morning. It just points out not how close we are, but how naive I am. But I'm here, and I had the opportunity. The grass cutting was going well out here, and maybe it's sad. With all that said, we have a very active schedule today. We're going to talk about things from related to all the activities that we had in May, which we'll get to in my report. We are going to follow up with our tuition fee schedule, you'll see, which is rather new to us and exciting to see that type of fee schedule this year. We will have an executive session today. And we will also have an educational session. The educational session will consist of discussion of our committees, ad hoc committees, staffing structure, and support. So those are really the main highlights of taking the tour. I would like to start out by asking our student trustee to read our mission statement. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Dennis. So the mission of the Board of Trustees. Erie Community College meets the needs of a diverse student body and contributes to regional economic vitality by providing high-quality, flexible, affordable, and accessible educational programs committed to student success.
Thank you. So true. We'll move into item number 2, our consent agenda for the day. We have 9 items before you. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? Thank you, Rebecca. On the motion, any comments, questions, clarifications? None being said. All in favor?
Aye.
And Denise, can we get you to register on that one? That's it.
Aye, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Items 1 through 9 carried, I believe, unanimously. Item number 3, committee briefings. We will start off the elite order with curriculum and student success. Chair Schwartz, would you mind kicking us off?
And I will definitely kick it off, and I'm going to hand it off to my partner, Rick.
Oh boy.
There are 3 advisory board members, or 4 that are being added. One's going to the Computer and Electronics Technology, that's South Campus, and 3 for Dental Hygiene, that which is North Campus. So we're adding to our advisory classes. And then there's an item on here for Inventive, and I'll ask Fabio if he wouldn't mind updating us on Inventive.
Sure. Thank you. The updated agreement in this case is an extension of the 3-year agreement that we signed last year. I'd like to extend that for 1 more year, and that will coincide with the remainder of our planning and assessment cycle. That planning and assessment cycle also coincides with our accreditation cycle. So pushing the software out another year just makes sense. Midstream on either of those planning or accreditation cycles to make a software change. The software is designed to manage all of our planning and assessment structures. So we think that adding this additional module and extending the year will make the most sense for us.
Thank you. To accommodate before we move on, technical. Denise, can you hear okay?
I really couldn't hear Fabio.
Okay. Robert, where is the microphone?
Well, there are 2 microphones in the ceiling. I think what we really need is our audience members around the room just to project a little bit more.
And or stand at the table when you're speaking. If
Yes.
that's okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That'll help you, Denise. Thank you.
Thank you.
The third item on here is a renewal of our one-stop center, or SUNY Erie Career Center. We have 6 members that work in that facility, and this is a renewal. It's been renewed probably 10, 12 times. It's now up at North Campus, and it's for $604,000. So we're asking the board to approve that for the next year. And then an item that we have had on the agenda for probably 10 years. This has never been able to get resolved. This is the joint operating committee of the police academy. The original proposal was to have 7 members appointed so that we could get consultation back from these members of this committee. We've been working with the county attorney on this for a while, 3 commissioners, and it's not going anywhere. We'd like the board to move on it. Originally, there was $200,000 was allocated, and that's been sustained in the county budget. So I think we're okay on that. That goes back years ago when Bill was here, and we got that resolved. So we're asking just for the approval of the joint operating committee. Okay, everything else in the police academy is covered. It's just this operating committee where they have the commissioner from Buffalo Police, commissioner from Central Police Services. I would be on it, or Dan would be on it, and then the chief of police, who covers currently who's the chief of police, and also 2 other members. So we'd have 7 members, and basically they'd meet quarterly and just update everything that's going on in the police academy. So we'd like to move that forward if possible. Okay, that's all I have.
Then do we have a motion for items 1 through 4? Moved by the secretary. Second? Thank you, Len. Comments, questions? None being said on the motion. Items 1 through 4, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Carries. And then you have minutes of submittal?
And we just need approval of,
No, we can
we can accept them.
we can accept those as presented. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next, I'm looking around for our financial people today. I guess we passed the budget. And
Everybody when I get down.
So financial health, in absence of Trustee Callan, we're going to ask President Coy to appoint somebody to speak to us about items 1 through 4. If you don't mind.
Bob?
You are the closest, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, I could try to answer any questions. Obviously, Penny's out of town for her son's graduation. If there are any questions on the tuition and fee schedule, I can try to answer them. Maybe the one thing I can speak to is the resolution approving comprehensive academic and facilities master plan, professional services. We had 6 respondents to that request. We had a process that lasted probably about 3 to 4 months. Some good interactions. The cost of that service came in way higher than we had budgeted in last year's budget. So we went back to those specific groups that responded and asked them to sort of break it up for us into pieces so that we could maybe make it more digestible. And the result of that was the first 2 phases were covered with the money we budgeted last year, and we'll be coming to the board in next year's budget to seek the 3rd phase. So we'll be seeking to do the environmental scan and the academic master plan in phase 1 and phase 2, and then phase 3 would be the actual facilities master plan that we would be asking for funding for next year's budget. We chose a local company. Actually, many of the people in this room know JMZ led that effort. Kennedy is the architect. There's a couple other local companies. Basically, each of the respondents had a team that they brought with them. And I would say by far, we've all worked with JMZ, we've all worked with Kennedy on the STEM building. They were by far the most competitive in terms of pricing, almost $100,000 less than the next nearest cost. and there was a level of comfort that the people on the review team had because we've worked with that group before. So we're confident that they can pull this off because we've worked with them. It'll build on the GMZ report from, I think it was 2012. So any questions or thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's some thoughts on this. First of all, this is the natural progression of our involvement. Typically in this process, historically, I've watched colleges have done this backwards. They run out and get academic plan, master plans, and then they try to get facilities to match the academics, and it's all. But the first step that took place in our progress is we did a strategic plan that aligns. Strategic plan will then drive the next steps of curricula and facilities, and what our needs are, from physical plant to assets of FF&E and equipment, all the way through the facility. JMZ, as you know, did a lot of work with us, so they are very familiar with us in that particular way. I was not part of the committee and frankly wasn't aware of it until the finalists are announced. So the master contract is with JMZ.
Yes.
They're working with subcontractors in architecture, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
Landscape architecture.
This is a big deal. So if there's questions about it, let's talk about it because it's something that's crucially important on a going forward basis for the institution.
We do have a kickoff meeting set in June where we'll sort of do our strategy session and sort of expectation setting. We did, and I will also add that we've been contacted by a lot of our SUNY colleagues from around the state because they're just starting to enter into the similar process. And there's not a lot of community colleges in the state, if you can believe it, who've done an environmental scan to the extent that we're hoping to do it, an academic master plan and a facilities master plan. I think it's been a little willy-nilly depending on resources that come in. That's how they've been doing it. But we consciously set money aside in last year's budget for this. We appreciate the board's support. We're excited to get started. Any questions on the Canisius housing contract? I think Steve probably would be best to answer that in Penny's absence.
Sure.
Steve, you want to-
Yeah, so we are moving forward with the Canisius housing contract. Just a quick review of the important details with that. The fee that a student is paying to the college will be $12,500 for the academic year, billed out in 50% intervals for fall and spring semesters. The cost to the college per student is $12,000. So the difference in the $500 is really to cover administrative fees associated with really hiring an intern to serve as kind of a liaison from Canisius to our student affairs folks here at SUNY Erie. We also needed to cover costs associated with modifications to the bus route so that we can provide better transportation service for students to get from Canisius to both North Campus and South Campus. And we'll use the Metro Rail for transportation to the city campus there. So at this point right now, we have we're in the midst of getting all the technology set up so that we can have an online response form set up and working with finance, working with the Bursar, working with Penny to put together all the accounts properly so that we're doing everything on the up and up there. We are looking to go live with that content in the next week or so. We are also, what else is going on there? There's one other thing. Regarding, just we're kind of working with a wait list right now, though, for students that they can't formally respond to us at this point because we don't have those mechanisms set up. We do have, from athletics, I think 34 students that have asked for housing. So we're moving in a good direction here. And I think it's important for everyone to know, I think we've talked about this before, but we're not reserving a block of rooms. We're not on the hook for a set amount of rooms where the college would be in a deficit situation if we didn't fill them. We are going to be billed at the end of drop ad for the number of students that we house there. So, it's a pretty safe investment, a safe way for us to kind of test the waters for housing and to, make some progress in that area.
Steve?
Yes.
I see hands, I'm sorry.
Go
Okay. Were you able to, I see you answered number one of Tim's questions that he
Yes.
sent online.
Let me bring the...
Could you Yeah, could you kind of go through those,
Right.
please?
Right. If I actually don't, if you give me a second to bring those
So
up here.
while we're bringing them up, John, did you have a question?
Yeah, as far as transportation goes, I mean, will the students get a bus pass or anything?
We do that for every student as it is already.
Mhm.
So that's part of the regular, the SUNY Erie transportation fee. So they're already getting those things. We need to modify our bus contract with WeCare to provide that direct route transportation to get from a new location from Canisius. We don't want a situation where we have to transport those students to city, or expect them to hop on a bus or to use the Metro Rail to get to city, then to get to north or south. So we want to provide a good experience for them, give them direct transportation to those locations.
Very good.
Do you have it in front of you, Steve?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then we'll get to that, and then we'll get to that. Thank you.
Just a, Steve, so right
Yeah.
now this is pretty much limited to athletes. I mean, that's who we've marketed this to.
This is, I would say that it's been inspired by athletes,
Okay.
but not exclusively marketed to. Right now, they are a captive audience that
Sure.
that has been pretty aggressive in asking about it. So yes, do I expect for us to fill up every opportunity that we have for housing with athletes? No. We have to do outreach with international. We also have to work with our departments that have the ability to bring students in from outside the area. Vision Care Technologies, those kinds of programs have been in contact with members of administration saying, listen, I mean, even though it's only a handful of students, there's students nonetheless that want to come to SUNY Erie from Rochester and Syracuse. So those would be people that we want to target as well. We don't want to open it up to everybody at this point.
Right, we don't have the capacity.
Well, we don't have the capacity, and it is. I think it's going to be more beneficial for the college for us to bring in people that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to enroll versus students that were going to come here anyhow. So we may have opportunities for those folks down the road. Canisius, I've already had a conversation with them about maybe doing an MOU for this housing agreement down the road if we find that they have more room in their residence halls, in the traditional residence halls, and our need is greater. They're open to that conversation where we would have to have a larger meal plan for those students to kind of abide by their rules, but they would be in a smaller living environment. They would be more in like a traditional residence hall that most of us are probably familiar with, and but it'll come out to the same cost. That much we've talked about already.
But we're still, and again, it's a pilot. We're trying to
It is.
maybe determine the market for
100%.
for
Yes.
students in general.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and
that's something to build on.
Yeah, and it's a good question. It's a good point, and I think that at some point, we do need to look for an opportunity to at least test that local student market to see what's out there. All right. Right now, we want to take care of those people that have
Sure.
been kind of clamoring for it
I got
beforehand. But yeah, we should be testing those waters.
Before we move on, let's go back.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
So what Denise was referring to is
Yep.
Tim, Trustee Callan, submitted a series
Okay.
of questions that
Yep.
relate to the contract.
So we've addressed all of those. I did send them to him. I actually didn't share. I didn't respond to everybody yet because since he presented those questions, I wanted to make sure that they were answering his questions, but I never heard back from him. In any event, so let's see here. Question 2. We addressed question 1. Let's see. Where in the 2018-19 ECC budget and which specific accounts is the expense side of this ledger showing? So I'll just read to you the responses that I gave to him. Said that it's going to be tucked into the student services budget. Revenue that comes in is then transferred over to an ASC account so that we can provide this within the rules governing our college operational budgets. ASC is going to be paying Canisius College on our behalf. Okay. So I have to work with them and make sure that we have all the right billing information set up, that they're billing ASC, not the college. That'll be just a little tweak to the contract that we
And
have.
everyone understands that it's a technical procedure for
Yes.
the 501c3 of the ASC Corporation.
So that's what we're doing there. Next question, is the $800,000 in revenue budgeted in the 1819 ECC budget as a net, or is it a net revenue after ECC costs are factored out? Basically, they're canceling each other out. The money that's coming in is going right out, or is expected to go right out to Canisius. And if the question here is, if we're talking about, is this going to be generating revenue for the college? Housing at most campuses, from what I've learned here, is that housing itself does not generate revenue. It's additional headcount that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to bring onto campus that generates revenue, generates more FTEs. So the $800,000, while it is coming in, it has to go right over to ASC to pay for the administrative costs and just the cost of housing and the meal plan and all that at Canisius.
My interpretation of the question was the following, and I can't speak for Tim, but
right.
I could speak for myself.
Please.
Is it actually physically reflected in the budget as an in and out transaction?
That I would have to check with Penny.
Yeah,
I will, and I can give her, probably once we get done here, I can shoot her a quick text and see if she can provide some more detail on it. All right. Okay. Moving forward here. Okay. So question 4 had to deal with, let's see here, the lease agreement that the tenant and landlord will agree upon the staffing and support of a part-time position to liaise between SUNY Erie Community College and Canisius College for the purposes of managing the disciplinary and daily needs of the tenant population. So who's creating this position? Where we're at with this right now is we don't even know if we necessarily need to pay for this role because students at Canisius' Student Affairs Personnel Program need to complete internships. And it may be just mutually beneficial for us to work with them to hire an intern out of their program to liaise between us and the college. So we don't know at this point now if it's a standard practice with Canisius that all those students get paid. We're anticipating that we have to pay them a small stipend, but if we're really, contributing to their academics, they're getting credit for doing this, we probably do not need to pay them, but it is budgeted for with that additional $500 that we're bringing in. So that's where that's coming from. All right. And so the last question had to deal with parking. So there was, Penny and I were texting and talking very late last night on this one here, because there was a slight misunderstanding here between she and I, and also with Canisius and how we want to do this. We've talked about it, and we think that the best way to go forward with this, the original idea was that the $500 was also going to cover parking and transportation at Canisius. Now, that is not fair to those students who do not bring to the college a car. All right? So what we want to do instead is assess who needs parking permits at Canisius, and from there work with Canisius to inform the students that they're going to have to work directly with Canisius College if they want to purchase a parking permit. So we don't want to get involved in that right now. If somebody wants to do, I believe it's $100 for them to purchase a parking permit for the year, but we don't feel that we can use money that we're charging students universally to pay for a benefit that may only affect a small group. Mm-hmm. So that's how we want to move forward with that one.
Any additional questions from Tim?
No, that was everything.
Denise?
I do have one question, just regarding the number 4 with the lease agreement and the position. I do feel a little concerned. One, that our students are being placed far away from campuses. 2, it seems like we won't have too much control over what's happening within the dorms. If anything was to happen, we're relying on a student intern to manage that situation based on stipend. And I think, I don't know, I will hope that we look into that a little bit more, just maybe creating some type of a more substantial position,
right?
If we're able to.
Well, I think that we're addressing it in a different way. The liaison person there is really going to be a frontline person, somebody who can exchange information efficiently between Canisius and between Jason Perry, who's our Dean of Students at North Campus. Jason has a very, very extensive background in residence life management at a variety of campuses up and down the East Coast. So he's really our, no pun intended here, he's our resident expert on campus residence management here. So we're going to be using him as a resource for us to manage those sorts of things. So if there were, let's say, a problem that required adjudication, we will be doing that, but we're going to be just basically using that intern to get information there. So if your concern is that we're going to be having an intern making high-level decisions about student welfare at Canisius, that is not the case.
I just know that with resident life, there's an entire different world. And when you have to deal with sexual assaults, you have to deal with alcohol, you have drugs, different things like that ECC have not embarked on yet. And it's good to know we do have someone, I did not know that we did have someone who has expertise in that area. I just want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence and not leaving it up to Canisius College to manage that new endeavor for ECC.
Right.
Our students.
No, I follow where you're coming from.
It's easy for Canisius to say, it's easy for Canisius, it's easy for Canisius to say, oh, those are ECC students, I'm not really going to get involved with
that's actually not the case, though, too, as well, because Canisius is providing to us the equivalent of RAs in those apartments. So our students are receiving identical services that Canisius students would experience. They have full access to that campus, with the only exception being tutoring services. They have access to the libraries, to all the athletic facilities. They can't do anything Greek, of course, and they can't play on a Division I team there. But for all intents and purposes, they are indiscernible amongst the Canisius resident population there. They have full rights to that. Canisius is looking at this as a recruitment opportunity. So they're trying to treat those students as well as they would their own students and give them a good residential experience.
Okay.
Mr. President.
I just find that this is really a pilot program. It's a cost-effective way for us to kind of dip our toes into the waters of having residences. We're looking at possibly having residences at Hilbert, at South, and even at North as well. Transportation has added a Canisius stop, and so we're revamping our shuttle schedule to have our students be as integrated to our campuses as possible. It's not making a lot of money, probably just not to speak of. But our athletics don't make us money. Our counseling service, it just adds to the attractiveness of us being a choice in terms of higher education. And then it also attracts potentially international students that pay a much higher tuition, and of which there are many here in the Buffalo area. So we're trying to do it in a way that makes sense. We're going to try it out. We're not going to build these luxury residences. I mean, the reason why Canisius is offering this to us is they have empty residences, and they made the mistake, and it's our benefit, and it's a cautionary tale that sometimes you build it and they're not going to come.
Yeah, the Delavan facility that we're moving into is entirely offline to their own students right now. So, last year if a student was filling out a housing questionnaire and wanted to move into these apartments, it was not an option to them. They're bringing it online for us. They actually have another facility that is in even a greater degree of offline. Like, it would require a month's advance notice for them to get it in living order if we were to need it. So that's the situation that they're in right now. So,
Trustee Masiello, you had a question?
Yes.
It was answered.
Oh, okay.
Any other comments or
Yeah,
questions?
so there are plenty of opportunities, though, for this to grow if we find ourselves in a position to be able to do that.
I just had a couple.
Yeah, please.
So it sounds like, so hall directors, residents, like RAs, they're going to be provided by Canisius?
At no cost to us.
Okay. And then activities for students to do afterwards. That's going to be, again, provided by the RAs, hall directors, any, like the Griffins After Dark, all those kinds of things as well.
Our students are indiscernible to them. They have full access to every single one of those things.
Okay, so
I
just
don't
for
know what
something
those
to do.
are. I'm assuming you do. But I know that when it comes to student activities, our students have full access to those sorts of things.
Okay, and then the next question I was going to have too is, so if that's completely discernible for the students, I really feel like international is the way to go for this. I understand the benefit for athletics, but international, all of my friends that are international students, they have to find them housing.
They do.
So it would be silly for us not to.
Absolutely. No, we're going to be working with them, right? Absolutely.
Okay, so
no,
work
they are
with
not.
Judy, just because
they're not going to be left out in the cold by any stretch of the word.
like I know one because he ended up not being able to afford the apartment that ECC found for him, so he ended up having to like move in with a friend's family that he goes to school with. So it was just like a weird situation for him, and it would work out better if we could actually provide a student housing.
We're putting together. Paul has been great with helping us put together kind of a one-pager right now that that athletics asked for to be able to hand out to some of their student-athlete recruits. That while we don't have the website up, just better explains in writing what it is that we're doing and gives them a little bit more confidence in, in our state at this point right now. We could probably have that morphed into, an international version there with just a couple of small tweaks. Like right now, everything is directing, RSVP, so to speak, to Peter Dremko. Okay, we wouldn't want to do that for them. But just, we're just trying to get the list going. And as it is stated on that list, if they're on that list right now, they're going to be the first people that we pick from.
Okay.
So,
Steve, what are
Yes.
options for the North Campus? No one's talking about that.
so the so to live at North Campus or close to it.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so we explored options all across Erie County. We spoke with every private school that has residence halls in the region, assuming Buffalo State cannot house us because they're in capacity, and so is the University of Buffalo. So we spoke with all the private schools, and each one of them made us an attractive offer. All right, each one provided certain advantages over the others. What we decided is that we're just getting our feet wet with this right now, and managing this relationship with Canisius is proving to be a lot of work. As we anticipated, but to manage now the relationship and manage 3 different contracts with 3 schools would be probably too much for us to handle right now. So we want to see how this works for us this year, and then have those conversations with Damon, because it makes complete sense. If that's what you're suggesting, it makes all the sense in the world. The advantage that Canisius provides is the centrality of just an ease of access to any campus that our students need to get to.
There was a builder that was interested in the North Campus and building. Has anybody talked to him lately about the
Zeffel?
opportunity? Yes.
Yeah, Zeffel's pulled out. We've been in conversation. We've had 2 so far with Uniland, talking about possibly building something out that would, and we would again not make the commitment of owning a residence.
Right.
But we would provide them with a revenue stream, like for a limited period. And so that would be attractive to them because they would have multiple streams of revenue. Our goal is to have a residence at North, mainly because we know from students going to Niagara, of which there are 1,600, that one of the primary reasons they're going out of county is they want that residence experience. So we do want something at North.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions as it relates to residents?
I just have one more. So you said kind
No,
of.
you can't live there.
I was going to say I had my 4 years. I'm good. Tapped out. But with that, so you said the 12,500 would be per semester. So if a student
per year.
Per year?
Yes.
Okay. So if a student decides not to continue to spring, how is there?
They are billed 50%.
Okay.
In each semester. So $62.50 per semester appears on their bill.
Right, and then would we go back to the waiting list and say, hey, rooms have opened up?
Or-
Haven't gotten there yet, but probably
Okay.
that's exactly what we would
That would
do.
be a nice position to be in.
Right,
Oh,
right.
Going back to
Yeah,
the way it was.
yeah. That's I
I wasn't sure.
wholeheartedly
if
agree.
that's been- Okay.
So like I said, it's very, very innovative, and I commend you.
Thank you.
It's exciting.
Thank you. Well, we've gotten a lot of help from people on campus, from financial, from admissions, from Marcom. So it's been very much a team effort.
Good job.
Before we move to take a motion for items 1 through 4 for the finance report, I'd like to point out, for the record, that we also are voting on our fee schedule as item 1 through 4. And you may see or may not see, but my yellow highlighter brings out something really significant. It shows no increases on a year-over-year basis, and in some cases, one case in particular, we're eliminating fees. So I wanted to make sure that everyone clearly understands how much effort has been put behind this to reach to this plateau as you vote today. So it's a significant move for us based on our history. So I commend everybody and thank you. Do we have a motion for items 1 through 4 of the Finance Committee report? First?
Second.
Second. Thank you, Trustee Linehan. Questions or comments on items 1 through 4? None being said, all those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? That motion carries once again unanimously. Thank you. We, for the record, on behalf of Trustee Callan, for the board's information, we have the ASC quarterly financial summary report that was presented to the Financial Committee, and then the ASC second quarter report was also presented to the Financial Committee for our records. Moving on, we'll go to item number 3, talent management and diversity.
Sure.
Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
and
I'm
will-
sorry.
Whoops.
You
Mike?
have someone trying to get your...
Denise?
I'm sorry, I had you guys on mute. Before we move forward to talent management, can I just ask Steve to go through a highlight of the enrollment information?
We certainly will when we go to that section of the report, Denise. I'll make sure we don't miss that today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay.
Tracy? Do you have anything?
No, I actually have everything.
Okay. Only, we do have some sad news.
We do have that, but I think President McCoy was going to address that in his
Okay.
president's report, but I think everyone knows by now this is exiting as well, so that did go out. But I think Dr. McCoy was going to talk about that.
Okay, great. And as other groups are, we've been continuing reviewing our policies for submission to the policy committee, so we've been working on it as well.
Okay. Any other items? None being said, we'll move over to strategic planning and assessment. The only report out today that we have for you is, for the record, the committee minutes of March are submitted and in place. I think this is also a fairly good time to kind of set up a conversation. And President McCoy, oh, did I miss him? Okay. I'll ask him as to when I know we had some questions or comments about middle states, so I'll defer to the President's report, if everyone's okay with that, to do that. And the next one is marketing institutional advancement. Good day.
Good morning. The marketing and institutional advancement met in May. We have got a report from Paula Sandy about the RFPs for the website. Paula, do you have anything more? I mean, we reported on this last time, so there's really nothing to report. Our next meeting is going to be June 22nd. As this committee turns into an ad hoc committee, we're going to be meeting less often. I expect after this June meeting, our next meeting will be in September. And we're going to have a change in leadership there.
Very good. Any questions or comments for marketing?
Get the minutes from the meeting to be accepted by the committee, by the board.
Okay. We'll make that note. Gail, please, if you would add that. Thank you. The next item is the report of the chair, of which we're going to have a general report and update. And I would like to go back, Steve and Denise, to your questions as it relates to admissions, enrollment, applications, etc.
Can we do that now?
Sure do.
kidding.
And Denise, I want to make sure you can state your question so we don't misinterpret it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So our summer enrollment is doing really quite well. We're at 75% to goal of where we need to be. We are up 10% in enrollments point in time this year, last year. So things are moving along very, very nicely.
So it's 10% year over year?
Yeah, point in time,
Yeah.
2017, 2018 comparison. So we're at 75% to our goal point of where we need to be. So the kind of a quick review, Trustee Wilson asked for some information about the year that was. Where we finished up fall of 2017 compared to fall of 2016 was pretty flat. It was down 1% there. The spring came in a little bit lighter. That spring 17 to spring 18 comparison was down 4% in enrollments from the year, and that's at the census date. All right, so that's after drop add, after everything's been accounted for there. Moving forward, though, into the year of admissions that we're in right now, our new student applications for students coming to the college for the first time are looking really good. Very similar to last year. We remain up around 5% from where we were in 2016 as well. So the admissions team has done a real bang-up job of getting the incomplete applications, those that weren't decision, is really putting a serious dent in those and making some good progress there. A lot of other good things happening there. We completed Tech Wars this last week here, and that brought several hundred students to our campus to focus on opportunities within our academic programs here, where we truly have room to grow within our trades programs here. My son participated and won a laptop. So,
Oh, wow.
so yeah, he walked away with a free laptop yesterday or last week. So that was pretty cool. So with Tech Wars was just here, and orientation is kicking off. Our orientation registrations are up from where we've been point in time from year over year. And we just started those, I believe, last week, and we've gotten, I want to say, around 150 students in through orientation at this point already. So we're doing a lot of good things, though, with our funnel communications to really just overhaul the way that we communicate students or to students once they've been admitted. So doing a lot of different things to try to get folks aware of the necessary steps to enroll.
Denise, does that get to all the base of your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Steve, just,
Any questions for Steve? Yes.
just a quick.
Yeah.
So, how many orientation benchmarks are there during the summer to measure how that's going?
I guess we could really do that at any time. There's no
Okay.
set schedule for that.
So people just come in when.
Yeah, well, you would be stunned at how many orientations we hold here, because we want to make them small
Right. That's
and personal, but that ends up creating a huge amount of work for that office that manages it. Carolyn Storms does a really nice job of maintaining a good program and remaining sane at the same time. It's an overwhelming task for a very, very small office to do. There ends up being close to 70 orientations throughout the year. Some of them are a breadth of programs. Some of them may focus on certain individual academic departments to try to just work with faculty and their schedules.
It's almost a daily.
You know, it gets to be about that point. Yes, it's a huge undertaking.
If there's not one every day, there's a couple every day.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
cover all three campuses.
Right, and they're
every day.
short. They're not long events. You know, but we have a lot of, I mean, for right now, we have a lot of good what-if kinds of conversations about ways to renovate it. I didn't come here in time to see them last year, so you know, I'll be spending some time kind of just hovering around and asking questions and getting people's input on what can we do.
Steve, I had a conversation with the principal at Riverside High School yesterday, and which said some pretty good things.
Yes.
I'm giving the commencement address on June 22nd. And so Riverside is phasing out because in 2 more years they're not going to be a high school anymore. But there's about 82 students that are in the senior class. I think the numbers were 67 are graduating, and out of those, 40 have been accepted and are planning to come to ECC. So that is a really, really good number.
Thank you to the admissions team for doing that. The folks that have in the past year they've adopted a territory management plan where instead of having a group of counselors be responsible for a group of high schools, now it's one person being responsible for a group of high schools. So that's a great way for the department to move. And so the admissions, the recruitment team, the counselors, so thank you to them.
That conversion ratio is impressive.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions on that front? Back to the report and updates to the chair. A couple of things I'd like to just bring out. First of all, it was a very active May for everybody. Kicking off with our inauguration of the president. We had the student scholarship event, which is always a major event at this institution, and distribution. Once again, I don't know if anyone's here that could just tell us. We had the number of scholarships that were distributed were in the hundreds, and
there was nearly it was over $300,000 that was distributed. I'm not sure on the number, but I think it was close to 200 scholarships were distributed as well. So it's pretty impressive. There were, I think, over 100 plus people that were there physically to accept it too. So,
Right.
I think that was Ann's first exposure to that. And so I think it is, as the chairman said, it's always an emotional day, and it's a great day for our donors to meet the students that their graciousness has benefited.
And this is one piece of the many pieces why you look at an institution that becomes attractive. Be it the test of housing, be it scholarships and embracing and bringing people into the institution, and most important, the quality of the academics. And you start putting all this together, and your funnel gets a lot bigger, so you can filter things through in a way that we have people that will have student success and their pathway. So it's really impressive. There's always a great event. And of course, then we had our 70th commencement this month, and which hundreds and hundreds flew, and I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more about that from Dan in a moment. And then, of course, we had your annual SGA dinner and recognition that also happened this month. So May is typically a very active month with all those types of things that go on around here. A tidbit of the month, I always try to find something new and different that at least I can learn and share. The item of the month that I have to show you is moms. Are we all familiar with moms? Of course we are, because it was Mother's Day recently, and we think about our mother or spend time with our mother. But this particular program is specific to SUNY Erie. And this is a program where people are finding a pathway to be a mom and go from education to employment. And this is something that should not be understated. It's a new program. As you saw, some people that graduate, they have the pink tassels on for graduation. It was an impressive moment. Another key piece of why Erie is doing the great things that it's doing. And I just thought we should share that today. I'm going to ask the Vice Chair, if you wouldn't mind, this month between now and speaking of the certain excellent things that we're doing here. We have been not only on the New York State stage for certain things that we've done at Erie and presented on a state stage of, how should we say, where people see us as very desirable and the things and our actions we've taken. But we have been participating, and Denise has started to fall through with it, which I think is so wonderful, of being involved with the American level, the national level, called ACCT. We have programs at the school and that are really standout, and I believe across the nation. And I believe ECC is at this place and time. So I'm going to ask the Vice Chair to work with the President's Office to submit, for the first time that I can recall ever, to on the National Forum and Front, that we have certain programs I think that are worthy of at least finalists or award level recognition. So I think it's a big step forward for Erie, and I thank you all for your efforts to get us to this point where we can be on and play on the national stage. It's really impressive.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else, general reports that I have for you? As you know, I mentioned we're going to go into an executive session. We don't expect any action of the executive session going forward, but there will be discussion, and of course, as we come out, we'll end the day with our educational component, which will be about committees and subcommittees, and we don't expect to have any business conducted in those parts. We'll move along to the ad hoc committee reports, which gets us into policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The policy committee met on May 18th. We have one policy proposal, a board policy for your approval to amend the student credit hour enrollment cap. The current cap was 24 credits a term, and now we're looking to make it 19. Like many of the policies that we are working on, there's a lot of sausage making, and I appreciate everybody's effort to be there as we go deep on these policies. Even though you only have one before you today, we take up quite a few of them, and it takes a number of weeks, a number of meetings to get it to the point where we believe it's ready to come to the board. The reason this proposal is with us now is because we reviewed other community colleges in the state, and our 24 credit cap was very high, and we want to be able to put students in a position to succeed, so we think 19 is a more reasonable cap. Of course, students with special extenuating circumstances can work with their dean and their professors to exceed that cap on an as-needed basis. So does anybody have questions on the policy?
I just had a quick question too. So how will the students be notified that they can exceed the cap?
I believe it's going to be in the student handbook.
Okay. How are we going to make sure the students read the student handbook or have access to it?
They have access to it. I mean, they get it at orientation, and it's part of the whole onboarding process, is it not?
No. As an orientation leader, that's not part of the packet, so I don't know how they find out about the student handbook.
I think those students who have, trying to accelerate their plan to get out would certainly have that conversation with their advisors and with the dean, and those accommodations can be made. We thought that this was a reasonable accommodation.
Did you say that Rebecca, that we don't talk to them?
You go over
introduce
the
them to
code of
student
conduct, and they have to sign off that they understand, but we don't give them anything that says, this is how you access the student handbook, or here's a copy of the student handbook.
Okay. Well, yeah, we can certainly follow up on that. We can, we can follow up on that. I mean, something like that is very easy to address. There are, in addition to that, there are a number of different financial things that we could probably communicate in the same breath that would make that effort all the more worthwhile. So we can definitely do that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because there's, I understand though, we want to make sure that students succeed. That totally makes sense. At the same time, if a student wants to, I had a handful that I know of that wanted to do dual degrees or a certificate and a degree, and they had to take over, and they wanted to, they had that ability. It's just, it's a different caliber of student than our majority. At the same time, we don't want to limit them, so.
Right,
I think
as was stated, the opportunity to receive those waivers is definitely there. Down the road, that might be a question for us to have a conversation with Workday and with IBM of how we might want to maybe create a electronic process to manage that without so many people touching the application, so to speak. That's a conversation down the road. Right now, it does require advisor intervention. Making sure that people know who their advisors are is something that we're taking seriously, something that we're addressing, and just really trying to make some strides in even in the communications that we're putting together for students that are being placed on academic probation next week. We've done a lot to try to make sure that they know exactly who it is that they're going to be working with, not leaving it to chance, not sending out an anonymous letter that says call 555, whatever, advisor to speak with a representative, making sure that they are getting the name of their specific advisor. So, we'll work with the colleague folks to make sure that all that is installed well.
And Gail, could we make sure that we put in the record that we follow around to this and bring this back up towards the fall, just to circle back and see where kind of progress we've been in that area? Thank you. Any other questions? Do we have a motion? Thank you. And do we have a second one? Thank you very much. Any questions or comments on this particular policy?
Clarification.
None being said, all those in favor of the policy? Thank you.
We also have our minutes from the April 13th meeting to be accepted by the board.
So noted. Thank you. Any other items to add a policy? We'll move along to technology, and there's a person right behind me, and I will move out of the way that we might want to call on to give a few updates on technology. So we have so much activity in that area.
Of course. So I'll start out with the Workday project that has been discussed by Board of Trustees quite a bit. It was approved last year by Board of Trustees and legislatures in July 2017, and since then we have been working away. And it's a 5-year-long project. We are fast-tracking it quite a bit, and we are literally touching the fabric of business processes all throughout the campus. So we are starting HCM, and financials are actively being worked on, and it is really eye-opener to see how manual we have been. So we are building the business processes as we go along and hitting lots of issues with the complexity of the organization that we have over here, lack of standardization, lack of documented business processes, and even agreement on what we have. So it really has been a very rewarding experience to go through and rebuild, literally build the information structure. We are planning to go live with the basic functionality of HCM that include HR, payroll, as well as the finance, different components of finance and financials on September 1st. It's a very tight schedule. We are on pins and needles. We are working away and hoping that we'll make that deadline, and then we will move on. And there is a rolling adoption schedule we have. And before we start on the student side, that will be next summer 2019. So this is a pretty high-level overview of what we have been working on, and all the teams. Yes, the HR, payroll, financials teams, they have been really working away around the clock, if I may say that, as well as ITS team and other teams. We are, so that's IBM is our implementation partner, and hitting lots of roadblocks along the way, specifically regarding the lack of standardization. So we are tabling some of them, we are tackling some of them, but the good thing is that once we build this infrastructure, it can easily be reconfigured, unlike it's not like the previous colleague that we have right now. We have literally patched every aspect of colleague, and that has made things very hard for us. So this is a reconfigurable implementation. So as we continue to develop more standardization, then we can continue to configure those ones.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Just like to share the group your intention to develop a technology committee.
Yes, Susan and I have talked about having a Board of Trustees technology committee. We are doing, beside this project, there is lots of work going on other and other aspects as well. And meanwhile, I have requested Gail to set up an ad hoc technology committee so we can provide more details on some of the strategic projects and things we have been working on. So that's, I believe, Gail, that's in the works. And
I'll communicate with Sarah.
yeah, and Susan, so I think we talked about the standing committee, and I'm not sure where we are with that.
We talked about that today. Thank you. I just, as Trustee Elmore and I were walking through this morning, it just reminded us that not only have we authorized and committed with the county so many economic dollars to make this happen, but it became apparent to us as we were walking in today from the human capital side of the commitment of the administration of people that are working beyond 12 hours a day to make our timelines and limits. So I want to make sure we appropriately recognize those individuals who are on this campaign all the way through. Thank you. John, anything to add to that?
Chair,
Yes.
Chair Murphy, I have a question.
Certainly.
So we are still on target with our implementation timeline as well as our budget. Are we still within those?
Are you talking about Workday project?
The Workday.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we are on target. This is a 5-year-long project, and our initial plan was to roll out HCM in July and financials in
You can say
September.
what code is?
HCM.
Yeah.
What does that stand for? Yeah.
Pardon me?
HCM stands for?
Oh, human capital management, HR, payroll, finance. I'm sorry. Yeah. So we have combined those ones together. So overall, it is on target in the sense that this is a 5-year-long project. So we will be moving pieces, some of them later and some of them earlier as we go along.
But we do have, within this 5 years, we have smaller benchmarks, correct?
Yes.
That we have, or timeline benchmarks that we have to meet, right?
Correct.
And okay.
Yeah.
And we're on target with those benchmarks.
On target means that we did, our financials were supposed to go live on September 1st. They are going live on September 1st. Our HR payroll was supposed to go live on July 1st, and it has been moved to September 1st to go live together.
Okay.
And these are again very the core basic functionality. We will still have other pieces that we'll continue to work on as planned earlier. Yeah. And
Okay.
there has been delay on the first on the HR payroll side.
So
Okay.
through September 1, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And budget-wise, we're okay there as well, because I know there was talks, and pardon my memory, but there was talks about us having to watch going over the budget because sometimes we run into unexpected costs and things for service or what have you. Are we still good there?
Yes, we are on target with our budgets.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no OSC cap report for the month, but before we turn it over to the president, one item that came up, I believe, last month, and thank you, Michael, for preparing. We had some discussion and question that we wanted to get some finite answer to. It was related to the business units, the academic and business units of the college, and what our comparables were as it relates to the area. So thank you for compiling it in your office, Michael. We have the information for you as requested. There are a total at SUNY Erie of 90 academic and administrative units within the institution. That speaks volumes. That is a lot. But what does that compare to? Let's start with Buffalo State has 77 departments and units. And I am not sure units are compared to units or departments, but that's their number. It's 77. And the University at Buffalo And on your seatbelt, it's got 258.
Yeah.
So that's the point of reference. So as we play out in our SUNY community in upstate New York, that's the point of reference and the balance between the two. So as you know, when we are sitting down and talking in areas of middle states and corrections and advancements, it's a very wide-ranging conversation to bring all your units together to make sure that we're all following and acting in the same way and on the same page. As a point of reference.
Can I ask a question? So, the large SUNY community colleges, Hudson, Monroe, Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, can we get
Erie.
comparables there? Right, no, but I mean, state schools are different than community colleges, so I wonder those academic and admin units compared to our peers.
The request is made. We'll do what we can on that, and that's a logical question.
Particularly locally, with NCC.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? If not, drum roll, please. Report of the President.
Well, I'd like to start by thanking our very own board members for their very enthusiastic participation in the investiture and commencement ceremonies of the month. Without your participation, they would not have been as successful as they were. I want to especially thank Dennis for being Master of Ceremonies for both events. He certainly has a second career as a talk show host, if you would like.
It would last one episode.
I think that these events remind us of the mission of the institution as well as the overwhelming support we have from so many constituencies at so many levels. So thank you all for joining us for those auspicious events this month. From Academic Affairs, the Liberal Arts and Science Division is working with distance learning and a committee of counselors to develop a plan to assist probationary students this summer. Probationary students will take a course called Academic Recovery Plan in Blackboard, which is our distance learning platform, with counselors meeting with these students in person during the fall semester to develop a personalized plan for academic improvement. Distance learning is also on pace for a 4% increase in seats filled for 2017-18, which is a very good sign for us. Distance learning also has 2 classes running off-site at Geico with 73 students enrolled. In the SUNY Erie One-Stop Career Center, 91 grants were awarded to SUNY Erie students for fall of 2017 and spring of 2018. Another 21 students are on track to be funded for the summer. The Grants Department is currently preparing our Perkins submissions for the year and is seeking funding in the areas of technology, health sciences, and education, which includes 15 SUNY Erie academic programs. And we've been very successful in the past thanks to the good work of Mike Begain and his team. And highlighting Steve Smith's report, summer enrollment is currently at 75% of our goal as far as headcount goes, and we are currently 9% ahead of pace for headcount and FTE this year over last. The athletics department's 2.79 cumulative grade point average is the 6th consecutive year of GPA increase for our athletes, with 8 different teams having cumulative GPAs of 3.0 and 34 student athletes with a GPA of 3.6. Regarding progress in institutional research and assessment, our assessment software, Nuventive Improve, is now fully implemented and available to all units for reporting updates on unit goals and program competencies.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So I understand that by May, all the academic units are supposed to present their data. Does that happen?
I believe so.
Most have.
How close are we?
We are on the unit goals report for the academic side. We're at approximately 52%. Yes. On the unit goals report on the academic side, we're at approximately 52%, with the first of those reports having been due on April 30th. The second of those reports is due in July. So they're still have a little bit.
What is it that was due? So do you expect, 52% if they were all due April,
Obviously,
so
right.
clearly that's not acceptable.
Substantial late grade on those. We've been collecting those reports for approximately 4 months, so there really is, at this point, no excuse for the lateness. We are working through the assessment mentors that have been appointed with each of those academic units, making sure that they have the assistance they need in order to load the data into the Vented. That's part of it.
So it's just technology.
Yeah, so some of that is technology related, certainly, and just capacity related. On the program assessment reports, we're at approximately 72% on the academic side. Those are due tomorrow. So we are, at this point, focusing on those reports, again, through the assessment mentors, to make sure that the units have the assistance they need in order to load that data into the Vented report.
I'd like to make sure we have a report on that at the June meeting on how.
Certainly. I'll give you all the rates, and we're tracking every unit down to the smallest details, so we should be able to give you what you need.
Thank you, Fabio. In terms of improving student services, the Food for Thought closets on each campus held open houses for students. Staff, faculty, and students were able to visit and understand their availability as well as their function. As I mentioned already, transportation will be adding a stop at Canisius College and revamping the shuttle schedule to include evenings now, as well as a north to south campus direct route for next year. We have received 57 Summer Success Academy applications through Say Yes and are in the review process now. In the spring 18 semester alone, Say Yes scholarships at SUNY Erie totaled more than $100,000. 2 of our graduating women from the MUMS program were honored by Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul at the What She's Made Of event. And during the 17-18 academic year, a total of 66 students were enrolled in our Men of Merit program. I was very happy to be joined by Mayor Byron Brown at this year's graduation ceremony. 3 Men of Merit students have been installed as SUNY Erie Student Government Association officers for next year, including our student trustee. And special thanks to Marvin Wilson for his excellent stewardship of the Men of Merit program, as well as Nora Clark for her innovative work in student services. Going to Human Resources, Equity, and Diversity. I don't know if all of you know, but one of our cabinet members, Lydell Fortune, will be moving on. He is returning to his hometown in Virginia to take care of his parents in early June, and he's done a yeoman's job of both Chief Diversity Officer and Employee Relations Manager. He's created some wonderful initiatives, including critical conversations, student affinity groups, as well as chairing a committee looking at student success by demographic factors. He'll be greatly missed, and we wish him all the best. Lydell, do you have anything to say?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve in those particular roles. Definitely, the journey here at SUNY Erie was shorter than I anticipated, but life circumstances sometimes suggest that sometimes our plans aren't the ultimate plans. When we embark on such a journey such as this, or any other journey. But I do think that with the leadership that we have here, from the board level and down, I think that the institution is definitely in a position to move forward. I definitely truly think that better days are ahead. So thank you for everyone that I've worked with, and I definitely wish the institution much success moving forward.
HR is also in the early planning stages of a civility campaign to kick off in the fall. This campaign is intended to proactively reset expectations about decorum and collaboration at the college among our staff. I'm also looking forward to attending SUNY Erie Summer Institute, which is scheduled for next Wednesday and Thursday. This institute will provide excellent professional development opportunities for faculty and staff, and the Equity and Diversity Office is sponsoring a breakout session entitled Diversity and Inclusion to Socially Just, Culturally Responsive Classroom. on both days of the Summer Institute. In terms of advancement, we have a six-figure gift for a highly visible space at the STEM building. An announcement is soon to come. A reminder that our annual golf and tennis tournament is on June 25th, and there's still room for foursomes and some sponsors. We'll be sending brochures your way. And last but not least, the SUNY Erie Thurman Thomas football camp is scheduled for July 23rd through 25th, and the proceeds are going to support the Thurman Thomas Scholarship with the Foundation and SUNY Erie football. That's all she wrote from the President's report.
Thank you. Mr. President, any questions or comments, observations at this point? None? That was very thorough. Now we'll move on to the student trustee report.
Yes, sad day, as it's my last. So summary of, as Chair Murphy kind of mentioned, May was a very busy month for the college and for student government. We had very successful Unity Day events on each campus where we did fun events and food events and something to bring the students together for that end of the semester. Way more successful than previously had hoped, so that was really good, and as it really shows just how much we are focusing on students first. Giving them something to look forward to other than classes and going home, really making this a full college experience for them. Then we also had our leadership banquet where we honored our clubs and our student leaders throughout the semester. And then, of course, ending with commencement. So commencement was great just to see, although, of course, it will never have every single student there, but just to give students that opportunity to have their families and friends be proud of their accomplishments and be honored in that way. My last duty as student trustee, I will be sending out emails to all of the groups requesting funds from student activity fees to alert them that they have been approved for their specific amounts and any stipulations that may go along with that, so they know in order to continue receiving their funds or to use their funds, they have to meet certain guidelines set forth by the students. So a new trustee will be starting tomorrow. So as mentioned, he's a Men of Merit student, very involved on campus already, and I look forward to what he can bring, a new perspective for our student government. And for just me, it being my last day, I just want to thank everyone for being so welcoming and so student focused, student first. That's really my role, and the only thing expectation I had from this year was to really have that student voice be heard. And I just really want to thank everyone for giving me this opportunity, and I learned a lot, and thank you.
You know, if there's anything, there's so many things we could say right now, but I think your consistency and your effort have been a standout. And you've been to committee meetings, you've done things way above maintaining a complete full-scale school record of activities, running the student government, and participating at the trustee level. And so on behalf of the trustees, and I'm sure everyone will speak to you individually, but we thank you for your commitment and involvement. When you signed up, and you committed, and you performed. So thank you.
And a pat on my own back. They said that the student trustee GPA drops when they become student trustee. Dean's List goes.
All right.
Mr. President, can you join me over here for a moment? On behalf of the institution at large, by all of us, we want to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And it's been fabulous to have you at the table. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it's an opportunity here, I guess, right? Okay.
Thank you so much.
College Senate report.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So at our May meeting, we had all of our resolutions previously throughout the year. We formed a couple task forces, so a lot of our task force gave their end of the year report. So with our academic integrity task force, we've been working with the deans of students and the academic deans to develop a new syllabus template that's going to be voted on in the June College Senate meeting. And we've been working together and with the union to come up with an academic integrity statement that we're going to put on the syllabus template if that also is approved at the June College Senate meeting. We've been working with all the deans of students with the code of conduct and implementing it and all the different things that we're working on with the Senate with academic integrity and academic freedom. Our AIM task force, President McCoy did highlight some of it in his, what does he call it? Yes, in his president's report, but our AIM sections have increased by 113 sections between fall 17 and spring 18. Which has saved our students over $400,000. Yeah, it's amazing. We're really excited about it. We're expecting the number to increase again for the fall semester, and we're hoping that we're going to move forward with doing a path of different degrees where students can come in, and the only cost to them is their tuition. And we have a day, as President McCoy also mentioned, we have the Summer Institute on the 6th and the 7th, and the AIM team will be presenting with that, helping faculty develop course materials that meets that $30 or less standard. We also formed another task force, and this one's on academic roadmaps, and we're working with Carolyn Storms and Nate Armstrong from START Orientation and with Katie Marshall from Career Services. But what the academic roadmaps is that when students come in for START Orientation, and whatever their major happens to be, it has degree paths for when they transfer to another institution. Right now we're working on Buffalo State and UB transfer paths, so a student, let's say they have to take a math course, and if they're just regular general studies, they might want to take any math course they want to fulfill their requirement here. However, if they're going to transfer to UB or Buffalo State for a specific major, then perhaps statistics or something else would be more beneficial to them. So that way, once they walk out our door, their math requirement or their social science requirement, diversity requirements, they're all met, and they can go right into their major courses without having to do anything extra. So that group is also going to be doing training and a presentation at our Summer Institute on the 6th and the 7th. We're working with the General Education Committee to review the status of our learning outcomes assessments, and we're working with Erickson Newlands on that, and that's going to have another update for our June meeting. And then, of course, we're working with Mina with the Workday Steering Group. As Dan had mentioned, that we do have the Summer Institute on June 6th and the 7th. So in addition to the AIM and the diversity and things that Dan mentioned, we're also going to have events on advising English language learners advisement, students on the autism spectrum and how to manage classrooms and students and help them in the classroom, diversity and bias in the classroom, workplace civility, and then assessment. On Friday the 8th is a designated full day of assessment. The FFECC and Rick's office worked with, we're working with Fabio's office to get all of the different units that have not had an opportunity to do their assessment, or they have their assessment done, they just have not had an opportunity to put it into Nuventive yet, and that is what Friday is designated for. And we have quite a bit of participation and a lot of units that are coming together, and we'll be participating in that on the 8th. And our next College Senate meeting is Tuesday, June 12th. It's at 2:30 in B207 at North Campus, our favorite room. And that'll be our last meeting for this academic year. And then we'll be starting back up again fresh in September.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? That being said,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is affiliated on this report. Michael, do we have a Are we expecting a report today? Do you?
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to update you. Our construction project, the remodel of the city campus cafeteria, is 2 weeks underway. We are they're in the process of removing equipment, mechanical and electrical disconnects, door frames, ceilings, etc. So far we haven't encountered any problems, so they're on target for completion mid-August, after which they'll do a punch list and we should be ready for the fall semester. That is a $340,000 investment by ASC into that cafeteria remodel. And we're also working right now with the housing group to incorporate a declining balance card for ASC as a meal plan option for the housing students as well as for on-campus students. That is a tax-exempt benefit to students if we set it up as a plan. And for the students who will be housing at Canisius, obviously they'll be doing a majority of their meals at Canisius, but when they're on campus taking classes, I'm sure they're going to want lunches, and so there is an option that they can increase the amount of their meal plan. So we're hoping to have that ready in time. Any questions?
Being said, as you know, when we did the city campus tour, we walked through the spaces that we were just referring to. And so that's been pulled out, and I had the opportunity to see the plans. Looks just like I think you want them to be going forward. But I have to add is to just point out how thorough and thoughtful this whole process and relationship with with Canisius and ECC is. I never thought through. I'm in the industry somewhat, and I never thought through the process of, well, what happens when a Canisius meal plan is on our campus, and how do we do this and deal with it? So I think that this brings to light really the level, the critical thinking levels that have gone into this particular issue. Thank you for coordinating.
Sure. I know conversation will occur about committees moving forward. I know one of the conversations is about having an institutional advancement committee maybe standing. The president usually does report on institutional advancement in his report. Maybe just two things I would mention briefly. The spring, early summer appeal from the foundation will be going out, so that'll be hitting your mailboxes. There's a great story about one of our students and their success here that you'll see. And then the other thing, President Hukoi mentioned Thurman Thomas football camp. Two talking points on that. Last year there were 11 teams that participated in just the SUNY Erie football camp. Of the 11 teams that participated, 7 went to the stadium for the regional championship. So there's a plug on that. But the second thing is with involving somebody like a Hall of Famer, Thurman Thomas, one of the things that was very important to him was full access to everybody in the region. And so we have scholarships available for students who may not be able to pay for it on their own way. We're seeking sponsors for scholarships. And we will work with the City of Buffalo to provide busing or shuttle service from a central location in the city to the Orchard Park campus, Hamburg campus, so that students from everywhere in the region can participate. So as President Coy mentioned, we'll send both the golf brochure to you and the Thurman Thomas football camp brochure to you, so that if you want to get the word out there or you want to participate in any way, we would welcome that.
Mike, is the access to the Thurman Thomas camp through all the high schools? Is that how?
Yeah, and actually we the 2 or 3 city schools that participated last year with the stadium, and right now I think we have 4 signed up, and there's opportunities for teams to come and also individual players to come. The same price. Thank you.
President McCoy.
I just wanted to follow up on your comment about our residences. It's actually a very unique higher education environment right now, with the privates feeling under pressure with the Excelsior Scholarship. But as Steve mentioned, all of them wanted to have some sort of partnership with us. One, they have empty residences, right? And secondly, it's, they're trying to attract students. And so the idea is that once students come to their campus, they're more likely to stay, and they might transfer over. So I think it's one of those things that allow us to leverage the environment today, and it's a win-win. I mean, it's a win for the private. Canisius is not making any money on this, obviously. I mean, they're charging us less than they are charging their own students. So, but it's something that is of benefit to us right now. And I also neglected to mention that because of Lydell's departure and the two very essential roles that he was filling, that we will be posting for two positions, one for Chief Diversity Officer and one for Employee Relations Manager in the next month.
Thank you. That falls within the item of old business. Do we have any other old business that we'd like to introduce at this time? Trustees, none being said, we'll move on to new business. Any new business that we would like to introduce at this time? None being said, before we ask for a motion for executive session, I would just like to lay out the balance of the day. We have an executive session scheduled. We will be in executive session. There will be no actions. We will be discussing. There is no intent to conduct any form of public business in this session. It's a discussion as it relates to individuals that relate to grading and administration. That's the extent of it. As we come out of executive session, without having any action, other than announcing next month's scheduled meeting, we will not have anybody back. The only individuals I'd like to invite to executive session beyond the trustees are President McCoy and for Park Scale. In addition to that, our learning opportunity, even though there won't be action, you may be interested. We're going to be discussing committees and ad hoc committees and administration of those committees. And that will be about a half an hour. And then we have also sometime between 11:30 and noon, we have an invited guest to speak to us on that second before we adjourn for the day. So with that said, do we have a motion to go into executive session? So moved. So moved. Len, thank you. Thank you. All those in favor? We are in executive session.
more sugar will keep me going. Hello.
Hi, Sam. How are you? So great to see you.
What's up, brother? Thanks for being here. Honorable Robert, thank you for being here, sir. All right. You guys. All right.
Move over here, Chief.
What do you guys want to say?
These two seats
Guys,
here.
sit at the table.
Seat anywhere, sure. Right up here.
How about
Yeah,
these? Those two,
right
guys,
here.
sit at the table.
Please do.
Good to see you. Energy, Reverend.
How are
Good
you?
to see you.
Nice to see you. Hi, Reverend. Nice to see you.
I was on the phone last time. I'm Rebecca. I'm with Trustee.
How are you doing?
Hi, nice to meet you. Hi.
Pleasure to meet you as well.
For another 20 minutes.
There you go. So, we're back in session, and I'm going to ask the secretary to read to the record for the minutes.
During executive session, we discussed the process for sharing information among members of the board. And then we decided to come out of executive session, and here we are back in regular session.
Thank you. And the last item on our agenda today is, you know, that there was a letter of request by Mr. Sam Radford, who's here today, and we'll make some introductions in a moment. So our last item today would be that Mr. Radford has a presentation that we've agreed to, and it's part of our ongoing dialogue. But I want to make sure everybody knows each other before we get that. And I would like to start with our TV star, Denise Wilson, Trustee Denise Wilson.
Hi.
How are you doing? It's good to see you.
Hi, good afternoon. Hi, Pastor. How you doing?
I'm excellent, Denise.
Good.
Very good.
Hi, Mr. Rapper. And welcome.
Thank you.
And we'll go right on the table if you don't mind, quickly, and then we'll get to our guests. Everyone knows?
Dan Hooper, President of the College.
John Elmore.
Len Monahan.
Kate Masiello, welcome.
Susie Swartz. And Rebecca Krakowiak.
And Dennis Murphy, and we've had the pleasure of meeting and speaking on the phone thus far.
Yes.
So thank you for taking the time out to be here today. If there's anything that I think we could all wish on behalf of the board is this is the beginning, not an end. And we know that, Sam, after our last two conversations, that two things that were apparent to me were that you felt that it was important to be here today to make a statement, and that number two, that we had multiple issues on a going forward basis, and that we were going to reconvene and come back around to those issues as we saw fit. And also for the board's information, that Reverend and I thank you to John Elmore. Again, had a phone conversation yesterday, of which we're in the process of putting together a gathering so that we can best understand and listen and learn about the humanity of the processes and the communities that we're talking about on a going forward basis. So that's where we are as a working group at this point. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Radford.
So first of all, let me thank you, and thank the full board of trustees for just giving us the opportunity to be able to share with you what our concerns is and our really our effort to work in partnership with the institution. To speak a little louder.
I just want to make sure Danny's can hear you. I was trying.
I can hear.
Thank you.
I was going to say, I have never had that issue before. Nobody's like, bring it down an octave, all right. But again, I am really appreciative. Before we start, I know I have a short time. We, at the end of our last meeting, we had agreed that y'all would give us some information in regard to where the authority lies and the possibility of a reconsideration of a decision. And so I was hoping that that information would be available prior to my remarks. Is that information available?
If you're referring to whether the decision stands with regards to the students. So I consulted with as per your request, our county attorney, Leslie Ortiz-Fogg, or is it Fogg-Ortiz? And she's our college attorney, and she said that the student has exhausted all her administrative remedies within the college. That's her determination.
But the question that we had posed was where does the authority in terms of reconsideration lie, whether that lies with the president or lie with the provost?
We don't have a mechanism for that within our policies.
So without a mechanism, would that mean it defaults to the board, to the trustees?
There's nothing in our policies that say one way or another. But according to our county attorney, the student has exhausted all her administrative remedies.
Okay, so in the last conversation we had, you said that at least the provost, that was strictly within the authority of the provost. The college president or the board of trustees didn't have authority.
That's right.
So is which I was going to get back with us on, was whether
that's what the county attorney said. That the provost's decision is the final administrative decision with regards to the student.
Okay, so I just wanted to say for the record, just so I'm clear, that if you can get that to us in writing, that is and whatever that policy is based on, or if there's a law that's based on.
I can ask Leslie to write something.
Right, because at least the information we were given was that that's not the case. That authority, because the position of the provost is a management confidential position, that authority lies with the president. For that reconsideration of decision. So if you can give us that,
sure.
That'll be a starting point. But to kind of bring us back to why we're ultimately here today. We're here today, and let me just reiterate a thanks for even the acceptance of us speaking. But in the letter that you sent me, you also talked about what we're going to do going forward, offering a June 12th and a June 20th date, which means you ultimately heard what we really wanted to do. What we were really talking about was building a relationship on talking about how we can work together to make this institution an optimum place for our situation. Majority of students coming from Buffalo Public Schools, this becomes a place where they will be attending. And as a former student at ECC, I am really invested in a process to make sure that in an environment where we have to say yes to education scholarship, we have the Excelsior Scholarship, and really we have the expectation of more and more children attending college, and the numbers of students that will become the ECC, it becomes even more critical that this becomes a pathway that prepares them for future success. The reason why we came is because we were alerted, and when I say we, I want to make it clear that I'm here today representing a coalition of community people that ranges from our parent group to a group of ministers, a group of not-for-profit leaders, as well as a group of business leaders who we are willing to participate as a group in everything that we're talking about here. But when a particular student came with a particular concern, and I know based on the confidentiality and that we're not in executive session, I won't say names, but I'll just say generally that our concern was that a student was dismissed, and at least from our perspective, everything that could have been done to help the student, to prevent the student from being dismissed, was not done. That there were institutional resources that were available for the student that were not deployed. And so our request is simple. We would like the institution to take a second look at the situation, to reconsider the decision, and to change the decision, and to make sure that in this environment where every student's success is very critical, and particularly a student that's coming from a protected class, and we're doing everything in our power to try to ensure every student gets through. But in this particular case, we believe that more could have been done, at least based on all the information we have. We are obviously willing to continue to be at the table. If y'all can show us other information, show some otherwise, we're willing to look at that. We have two particular concerns that we would like you to take a second look at as a board, as it relates not just specifically to the student, but what happened to this student is potentially, reflective of the institution. Our concern being the accreditation of the department and where that stands, and how this particular student was impacted because of where the accreditation of the department stands. We believe that this student was unfairly treated because of some concerns as it relates to the accreditation of the department. We know that the college itself is going through an accreditation process right now. And what we would like to do is make sure that in our effort to partner to support this individual student, as well as to support the overall opportunities to minority students and all students as they come into the institution, is to work with the accrediting body to say that this is an institution that really embraces and supports and drives resources to the needs of students. Right now we have a concern, our coalition has a concern. You've been responsive in terms of listening, but we have a clear difference in understanding about whether this can be overturned and who has the authority to overturn it. And so we can't go any further until we have that in writing and what it's based on, so that if we can prevent it from going to a legal situation, because I noticed the terminology that the president used was all exhausted of all administrative authority. And because we've been in these kind of battles before, we know before you can take a court action on something, you have to exhaust all administrative authority. So we get concerned when we hear the term exhaust all administrative authority, because it's almost like we're posturing for a legal action. Our hope is that we don't have to get involved in legal action. Our hope is for a partnership. Our hope is for us to look at what happened with this young lady and to see if the institution, at least in the last meeting we had, the provost, I believe, said that all institutional resources were not deployed to help this child, this student. And if that is the case, we would like the student to get the benefit of the doubt. And so we're willing to follow up on one of the 2 dates that you've given to work to get this different result. But we would like that to be the beginning of where we go forward in terms of this partnership.
I think that, first of all, thank you for sharing this with us, so that everyone can hear at the table at the same time. We are certainly going to follow through on this. And as we've, in our past discussion, we all openly recognize that all of us are not going to see the same thing in the same way all the time. As a matter of fact, we just had a discussion here in our own board, and I had it at my dinner table last night at home. So we all agree that we're not going to see everything the same way. The key is that we develop this partnership so that we can find our pathway to help as many individuals as possible in our region for pathway to success for college education and the form of education that they are interested in. And I know that we continue to speak about graduation rates all the time. This benchmark in the state of New York is used constantly, but there are a lot of people here that at ECC, suing Erie, I'm still working on that are interested in certificate chunking to advance their lives and help them balance their lives through education, work, and raising a family in some cases. So there's a lot of subject matter is what I was trying to introduce to you that I think we can all commonly discuss. And I thank you very much for your time. Is there any other items from trustees at this stage? But most importantly, the bridge is built for whatever June dates, those dates that are working for you all, and that we can put together.
And if we can, if so, in our coalition, we have a long-standing ECC professor who was with us last time, as well as 4 or 5 of his colleagues. We have some former ECC administrators, 3 in particular. We have a coalition of people who have experience and have been, in this environment that is willing to be part of bringing a solution in this particular case. And so I want to be clear that we continue to look for a solution. And I just want to know, is in the 12th or the 20th, whatever that situation will it make space for us to bring people in to work out a solution and have them offer what resources or what could be done in the future as well in this case to address the situation. Is that a platform or that a space for that where that kind of dialogue can take place where we can bring those resources to that conversation?
Well, I certainly believe that there's going to be the right dialogue. What I would suggest is that I would offer that you and I have a offline conversation to say how we can structure the agenda so we can best use everybody's information time, so that everyone that you would feel important to have a voice can have that voice, and then we can continue on and move through our business cycle, whatever we want to have as far as our overall conversation.
So if I can give you feedback, so we'll do that offline, but I just want to say, just on the record being clear,
yes.
Is the college open to a process that's not a legal process, or is the college posture that the college would like to get into a legal process on that issue? I mean, I guess what I'm saying, I don't want to waste people's time. I mean, so if the college is open to a process to take a closer look at what happened in this young lady's situation with people with background and experience was for reconsideration, then we draw people to the table for that. If not, and we need to go another route, if we know that outright, we can just move in that direction.
Well, I'll try to make it as clear as possible from the board's perspective. We, in our last meeting, agreed that this was not going to be the sole subject.
Right.
And that we were moving forward jointly, that we did not want any one particular issue to derail a future process. I don't want to 100% close the door to that, because I think everyone needs to confer before I can represent an answer. I'm not empowered to speak as an individual. I'm empowered to speak as a whole. So we would have to discuss that as a board before we could provide that answer.
Well, as a matter of fact, that's exactly what I was asking for, because what I want to do is make sure that this in this specific situation informs what we're talking about going forward. And so I don't want it to be, if there's a space where y'all can take a position about whether or how we can use it to inform it, I want to go into the discussion with you with that position having been taken. So we'll know to say, okay, well, they have shut the door 100% on the reconsideration of this, and we need to go down a different path for that, or no, that door is still open and there's a pathway for that, and we can bring resources and people to that dialogue to be able to get that result, because that is a priority for us. So we need to know what the college's posture on that is.
I would suggest you ask the president that question directly.
Okay, to the president.
Yeah, I believe, and I'm new to the college, so I'm still new to our policies. And so many policies too. My understanding from the county attorney, and she said it because she's a lawyer, that the student has exhausted all the administrative remedies that are available to her from the college.
So if that's the posture, if you can get that to us in writing, and tell us what it's based on, because that's obviously have to be based on some kind of policy or some kind of law, and so that then that allows us to, when we get ready to work on going forward, we know that what's informing us is, because that may be a policy that we have to address going forward. The policy that limits our ability to be able to intervene in a situation where we could have did something different, and if that's the case, we want to know that policy. Because that's ultimately where the Board of Trustees weighs in at. It can change policy that don't work in the best interest of the institution or the student, and if we need to do that, we need to know what it is. If you don't mind, Chair Frank,
I just wanted to address that question again, because if the student has exhausted her administrative options, has the institution exhausted its? And as Sam just stated, if the trustees can make a change now that retroactively affects this situation, that provides us an opportunity to go forward in the best possible case. So if the student's administrative options have been exhausted, has the institutions, in your opinion, options been exhausted in terms of administrative? What policy?
Yeah, again, it being new to the policies, my interpretation is they have been exhausted by the institution. And that seems to be supported by the legal counsel's opinion as well.
Mr. Red, I made a motion to reconsider. I was told that it was a legal motion and it was defeated.
May I ask a question? Because, Attorney Elmore, I greatly appreciate it. So, the clarity between an ethical decision and a moral decision. This board has the opportunity to make a moral decision. telling us the ethical limitations and the legal limitations, that is a framework. But this board can operate above and beyond that framework where will drives the decisions. And so is there the will to bring about a decision that restores the student and allows the institution to move beyond its current legal structure and move into the moral area of its best intent in service to the community? Because we're now at a point where it's a will and a moral decision, and we cannot hide behind an ethical framework. We have to have leadership beyond the ethical framework right now, and this body has that capacity, I believe. If this body has that capacity, then it's a matter of will. So does the institution will the best efforts in this situation with this student as an issue?
Your question was, do we have the will to have the student reinstated?
And do you have the authority to do that? Do you have the legal authority to do it?
The president has just said that we don't have the legal authority.
But he didn't base it on anything. I mean, at this point, it's just based on something somebody said. So if there's something in law or something in policy, and just so we can be clear, going forward, because that's what we're specific about, what we do going forward on a larger issue. If there's a policy change that needs to be made, we got to know what policy we're talking about changing. And that has not been brought forth in any kind of way at this point.
So, as I understand it, we will have a letter to you provided, and we will be prepared at our meeting to weigh into all these particular subjects and respond appropriately, so we can have that dialogue.
Great.
Very.
One final thing, just so that
I didn't see it.
Many of the board members, I don't think know Reverend Pointer and the group that he represents. And could you explain, or could we allow Reverend Pointer to explain the group that he represents?
So one of our coalition partners is the Concerned Clergy.
The Concerned Clergy is a coalition of 92 churches in Buffalo, Lackawanna, and Niagara Falls, and the Episcopal Diocese of Buffalo. We've collaborated and confederated to work on issues of social justice in this region, particularly around protected class social justice, as there often are inadequate resources to persons who are in protected classes with which to defend and to assist themselves. So that's our primary concern, and we're very, very concerned about the posture that SUNY ECC has taken, and we're concerned that going forward that we can move the college out of the trench that the college has determined that it must stay in, because we believe that there is a place for justice, and justice operates above rules and regulations. The way we understand and believe justice is the operation of love in the community. And so when we're talking about justice, we're not talking about the black and white letter of the law. We're talking about what is fair and just and ethical within a community for providing a way forward.
Thank you. And thank you very much for your time. We are going to be adjourning in a few moments. You're welcome to sit while we go through that process, but it's really
enough boards of my own. I don't need to stay
with your
for that.
experiences, I'm sure you made the right decision.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Again, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity.
Thank you.
With pleasure meeting you. Good luck. Good seeing you. Thank you.
Staff, good to see you.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
Okay. We are moving to the last piece of our agenda today. That is the educational monthly learning opportunity, which is committees. Allow me just one moment to get organized here for you. The intent of today was to, in our is to talk about and set up our committee structure as it evolves. So to be in alignment with our strategic plan, to be in alignment with the priorities and initiatives of the institution. This is not a dramatic change by any means, it's just some reshuffling of certain things. And right now, we have the standing committee set forth is financial health, policy and governance, advancement, planning and assessment, student success and diversity. And those would require, and will require in the June meeting, an adjustment to our bylaws to reflect that before those committees can be, in effect, operational. The ad hoc committees are not required to be within the bylaws, general, and those would be marketing, technology, curriculum, and talent management, which will be renamed to something appropriately by the committee itself. How's that? So individually, I've reached out, and I think I have almost 100% participation, except for maybe one, as to what your interests are in committee-wise. I'd just like to spend a few minutes about what the vision is of those committees. And then I'd like to talk about the administration piece of it, so I don't hang you up too late in this process. But I don't think that, just as an FYI, and I'll reach out to you through Gail, it's everyone that has responded about your interests. I don't think there's any conflicts. I think we're all kind of, it's almost uncanny how complementary we are to it. The biggest changes that we're going to have are administratively are this. We are, as part of our standing committees and ad hoc committees, we are now opening committee membership. A member of the committee can be from outside the board. And we're going to have to determine some form of governance for that. So as we have...
They can be outside the whole institution.
Yes,
just
yes.
the board
So that was statement one, right? Outside of the board. And then number two, from the community at large, by example, we have advisory committees, comedy advisory committees, and members do we have? Hundreds. Of which there's immense talent out there that we can bring to the table to help us work in our committees, I would say a much more higher and effective rate. So that is, other than reshuffling the committees, that is probably the largest single change that we've ever experienced here at the institution. It's a learning process, so we're going to have to determine how it's going to govern itself with, in essence, a non-trustee member having an active participation in those committees. Yes?
Yeah, because then my question is as well, say a student government member who is not the president/trustee shows an interest, say a communication major is really interested in the marketing meetings. Would we suggest that they attend the meeting as non-members, or that they become, would they have the opportunity to become members?
So the way, that's an easy setup point. First of all, they would certainly want to be encouraged to be invited if that's their field of interest. I can't see why not that wouldn't happen. The committee chair will be the person that invites additional members to the committee of each of those committees. So marketing chair would invite whomever they believe to be helpful during this next term of the year. Let's say that we're focused, by example, on marketing, that we're really focused this year on social media and our distribution of electronically and data. So it would only make sense that we bring in people that really are adept at that to provide an insight in addition to those within the institution. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last piece to that is we have learned, because of our past experiences that have maybe started out negative and ended up positive, is that we need to have accurate recording of our committee's activities and that the minutes are appropriately taken and received. So we're going to have a dialogue, and I have asked Gail, and Dan and I have spoken about it, is to come up with a a comprehensive, but more importantly, a consistent way that we're going to structure our structure the times of our meetings and dates, and most importantly, who's going to assemble the minutes and get them, because those minutes roll up into our overall board minutes. They're accepted and received by the college, by the Board of Trustees. So one of our goals has been is to get consistency in those minutes. As you may know now that we have an incredible volunteer group from the institution is picking up each committee and taking on it in an ad hoc way. We're going to, bring this together in a little bit more process-driven approach to make it more consistent and helpful to you as committee leaders, because the committees have taken on a lot of work. And of course, as you know, you're volunteers, and the committee members are volunteers. And we also have high expectation of turnaround and information. So that's going to be the last piece of the puzzle. I can go through all the committees to you, but really one of the big ones that we're looking forward to bring forward this year is advancement unto itself. Under President Sequoia's leadership and background as an advancement leader, and understanding the big audacious goal that we think that we're going to be having going forward for our foundation, how we're going to move forward. We thought that the advancement committee would be an appropriate tool as part of our role, and as a matter of fact, when we were looking at our strategic plan, President Sequoia suggested that we add that to our pillars to make sure that we're keeping that top of mind. So therefore, the committee is reflecting just that. The others are not ad hoc or standing committee. Does not mean anything as far as more important or less important. It's just the frequency of why we need ad hoc is when we have a reason, we bring them together. Otherwise, the standing committees are pretty consistent in nature, and that's the only definition difference that I can leave with you. It has nothing to do with being important or unimportant. It's just the frequency and the nature of the need. So any other particular thoughts or comments? And I'm out of gas, so you guys take over from here.
You want to tell us who's chairing it?
Well, I can send those out to you.
Yes.
Would you mind?
No.
But as I mentioned to you, everyone that's responded with your interest, I think they're all covered. I have one more person to talk to that, so I just want to make sure that we don't have any conflicts. Denise, is there any questions from you in New Orleans?
No, I have no questions.
Okay. Anything else?
So you're going to send out the
Yes.
committees? And,
With Gail, we're going to sit down and put that together.
and then when are you going to do the appointments?
Right at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, I just would like to speak to the other person
Sure.
that hasn't responded. In fairness, as you say, we all work together on this, so
Absolutely.
it's part of that process. I was hoping to have it all done today, but didn't quite get over that hump. Anything else? Beautiful. Yes, Madam Secretary, she's got us thinking forward. June the 28th is our next meeting. You will also be receiving from me to expression of interest. We're going to have multiple meetings, trustees, with, as you heard today, between now and in June. So as soon as we know something, I'll send something out to you to see if you have an interest in being present or participating, etc. We do have the Open Meetings Law, which kind of you may or may not be aware, but we had a meeting at ECC at the city campus, which the majority of us were there, so therefore we fell under, and it was very awkward, frankly. We were trying to have a nice conversation, and then we fell into this Open Meetings Law issue, and then, what do you do, how do you do it, whatever. And so we got through it. I just want to make sure we try to make it as comfortable for everybody as possible going forward.
Just to let you know, I'll be gone for 8 days beginning June 12th. If my participation is required, I will not be available those days.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Anything else? Then we'll take a motion to adjourn. Rebecca, you get the honors.
Thank you. I was trying for it.
And you got it. A first motion by Rebecca. A second? Len, thank you. All those in favor? Denise, thank you for
Thank you, Denise.
sitting so
Enjoy New
patiently in
Orleans.
New Orleans.
Have fun!
Thanks for all your help, Rebecca.
That's freshman.